Welcome. I'm here with Graham Priest, who's a professor of philosophy at CUNY. He's a very well-known logician, and he is famous for being a dialetheist. Hi.
Hi, Steve.
Could you tell us what dialetheism is?
Yes, very simple. That there are some contradictions which are true, and by contradiction I mean things of the form it is and is not the case.
So what do you think is an easy example of a true contradiction?
A very simple one is concerns a sentence which says, this very sentence is false. And then you ask yourself, well, is that true or false? Well, I suppose it's true. Well, if it's true, it says it's false. So if it's true, it's false. Okay, well, suppose it's false. Well, it's false and it says it's false. So, looks so it's true.
Now, one thing that one always worries about when one talks to a dialetheist is they've just made an assertion and you believe it, but then you say, wait, what if they also believe the negation of what they just said? So do you also believe that it's not the case that there are true contradictions?
It might depend on how exactly you express that sentence. But in various logics which allow you to have contradictions without disaster, you can have truths, even logical truths, of the form A and not A. But it can also be a logical truth that for any A you like, it's not the case that A and not A. So in that sense, yes, you can accept the thought that there are no true contradictions. I mean, as I said, it depends on how you express this exactly, but that's one way of expressing it. So if you do it like that, you have a kind of hyper-contradiction.
Could you say a little bit about the kind of reception that these ideas got at first and how that's evolved?
The early years were difficult, so let me tell you about the publication of In Contradiction. That was probably the first clean modern statement of dialetheism. I mean, there are essays by myself, by Richard Routley before, which follows it. But this was the first monograph which actually argued for it. And I had to go through about 10 or 12 publishers before one accepted it.
Is that right? Which one accepted it in the end? I forget.
It's a Dutch publisher called Martinus Nijhoff. It was rejected by all the big publishers.
Right.
And some publishers send you reports, some don't. Some reports said, well, this is just crazy. I mean, this was just so much against the grain of the time that people found it very difficult to take seriously. And, I can understand that because the principle of non-contradiction is so well entrenched in the history of Western philosophy. But slowly, people realized that there were substantial issues here.
One of the things that I've learned thinking about your work is that these really are global issues. So my impression is that you can't just be a dialetheist and leave the rest of your worldview unchanged.
Sure. I mean, the principle of non-contradiction has been so much a cornerstone of Western philosophy that if you change it, a lot of other things are going to have knock-on effects. One thing that has surprised me over the years, however, is how little in some ways things have to be changed. Okay, dialetheism means that it can't work exactly in the way that presupposes consistency. But in the end, what's doing a lot of the hard work is not consistency at all, it's other things. And so you can change that little bit of the jigsaw, as it were, and everything works much the same way.
If someone wanted to learn more about dialetheism, what should they read? Well, what do you recommend?
Okay. Look, maybe the easiest intro is a paper that I wrote a number of years ago called What's So Bad About Contradictions?
Graham, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me.
It's been a great pleasure, as ever, Agustin.